It's that time of year again. Supposedly, we're getting a PlayStation State of Play in February on the 12th. And once again, every time I open up the comment sections and take a wild guess, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? What is the number one request you are seeing in those comments? Bloodborne, Bloodborne Remastered, Bloodborne 2, flooding yet again the comments, and it's there. As far as I'm aware, there hasn't even been like an official post. This is all alleged that this is probably coming in like the next few weeks. But even on these like rumor posts that are coming out, Bloodborne gifts, Bloodborne, everything in the comment sections, not even on the official pages yet. Just get ready. The moment that gets announced, go into those comment sections. You already know what you're going to see. And it's like clockwork. Every 3 months that we get these PlayStation showcases, that this is what the comment sections look like. The last one was like back in November, I think, and there was right before the I think it was the Japan studio showcase. There was a rumor that came out that FromSoft was going to be at the showcase, and everyone's like, this is it. This is it. We're finally getting it. And we did see FromSoft. They were the final show. They were the final studio that was presented, and it was the Night Rain DLC, which I was still hyped for because like a week before we had been told that we probably weren't going to get that until like March of this year. So to know that it was coming out in the beginning of December was actually pretty cool. I was pretty hyped for that. I really didn't expect Bloodborne. I was like, okay, that is interesting. Sony FromSoft, like what's going to happen? But it ended up being Night Rain, and it is interesting that they kind of like partnered up there, since it's like, well, what is their relationship, which I don't think is necessarily bad, but guys, we gotta chill. As much as, look, I've got Bloodborne back here. I've got Bloodborne merch over here. I've got the comics. I've got the Hunter's Mark tattoo. Like, clearly, I love this game. It is like one of like my two favorite games of all time, the other one being Elden Ring. So obviously, I would do anything for a remaster, a sequel, something, anything, as long as it's not a Blue Point remake. But anything else, like, please send it my way. And 11 years later, we're coming up on 11 years in March. We've got nothing. We're reaching the Half-Life 3 levels of, this has just become like a video game meme. Same levels as like Silk Song until we finally got it, to be fair. And, I don't think Half-Life 3 is necessarily like impossible either. I also don't think a Bloodborne remaster is impossible. I think there are very easy, relatively easy steps that could be taken to eventually get to that point. Why we haven't seen that, I have my own speculations as far as like one needing to reach out to the other, whether it's Sony needing to talk to FromSoft, FromSoft needing to talk to Sony and get that ball rolling. Do either studio want to allocate resources to that right now? Who knows? But, guys, I am talking directly to the Bloodborne copium, the Copeborn fandom. We gotta chill. Look, I know for a fact that social media team for PlayStation they are tired. I know that as someone who does social media work and like video production and all of that, and I keep up with a lot of that. So I'm like in a lot of those fields. If I was working for PlayStation social media, I know I would be tired. Every time I open those comments to just see Bloodborne gifts, Bloodborne 2, Bloodborne remaster comments, just the entire thing. When that's not even going to be on the plate. It's going to be something about Wolverine. It's going to be about the new Naughty Dog game, or maybe not even those. We might not even get anything about those games. And it's just kind of a showcase. These presentations usually largely comprise of like third party developers who are like, hey, these are games that are coming out to PlayStation. Wish list them if you're interested. Hey, here's a new Wolverine trailer at the very end. Something like that, which also looks really good. I am kind of like looking forward to that. I'm hoping Insomniac kind of locks in after Spider-Man 2, because I love Spider-Man 1. That's such a good game. But not to get sidetracked, I'm just, again, as someone who adores this game, this IP, I'm getting tired of the constant cope. The like, hey, it's this time, right? And I know a lot of it can be memes. A lot of it's like poking fun at it at this point, almost like, again, the Half-Life 3, like, oh, it'll be this time for sure, guys, right? Ha ha ha. But there is a lot of people I do think are genuine, and I don't necessarily say give up, but I do genuinely think eventually we will get some kind of remaster, something, whether it's at the end of the PS5 generation, beginning of the PS6. I think something's going to happen at some point. I think Miyazaki does want that. I just don't think I think he's too distracted elsewhere to really put an effort into talking to Sony to be like, hey, let's do this, you know. And again, like, is there a gentleman's agreement there between FromSoft and Sony that Sony cannot do anything game wise with this IP unless FromSoft is involved, like a remaster, like a sequel? Would we want another studio to make Bloodborne 2? Obviously, I don't think anyone wants that. And the people who specifically ask for a Bloodborne 2, it's like, well, is FromSoft going to divert from their current timeline of projects, which is the Duskbloods and at least one other project we know might come out this year? And whatever other projects they have afterwards, are they diverting resources, and is Miyazaki himself diverting himself to work on a sequel when he could be working on projects that they fully own the IP for and don't have oversight from a company like Sony? Which I know there's been discussions about, Sony potentially buying, what is it, Katakawa, that owns FromSoft. Who knows if that ever happens? I'm not fully educated on that, on what that situation looks like right now. But again, and I wouldn't even want Sony to then come in and say, hey, you're working on these projects, divert your attention, make this instead. And you're not going to get a product that's a full passion project from Miyazaki if you're, like any creative, if you're forcing them to make it, they're not going to put their all into it. I don't want that. And I don't think Bloodborne really needs a sequel. I'm more concerned with a remaster, not a remake, a remaster, upping the frame rate, upping the resolution, maybe improving textures. I would not be opposed to fixing the blood vial system. All of that being said, I do think eventually we will get something. There's no substantial rumors for that right now. Why are we still harping on this, guys? And look, the emulation scene has been going absolutely crazy lately. They are getting Bloodborne on PC to such an incredible point. There's so many amazing mods that I've seen for this out there, visual mods where I'm like, my gosh, this is absolutely gorgeous. That's out there for you if you have a PC. Would it be great for an official release? Yes, but I don't think this is a bad workaround. And I don't want to say let it rest, but at the same time, it's going to happen when it happens. I don't think, again, just commenting the same stuff over and over again every time we get one of these reveals is going to change anything. And again, they're going to look at, well, what were the actual sales for Bloodborne, which has continued to sell well over the years. Last report was it had sold around, I believe, 9.5 million units, and that the total player count was closer to, like, I believe, 16 million when accounting for PS Plus, because the game is included in, like, PS Plus. So if you have that subscription, you can download it and play it, which is actually how I played it originally. So that's a factor into that as well. But again, is it something that Sony is desperate enough to potentially try to go back to? And if they were to go back to FromSoft, would FromSoft again divert their attention to a Bloodborne project? I have no idea. Maybe Miyazaki would be jumping at the chance. It just doesn't seem like that's the direction they're wanting to go when now all of their projects going forward, they have like full creative ownership of. So this is more of me trying to bring everyone back down to surface level. Don't go into these presentations with, the highest expectations, the highest like, oh, we're getting, again, Bloodborne 2, Bloodborne remastered here. Like, we're lucky to get one Sony exclusive title getting shown off at these events. One of their higher profile ones, like, again, Wolverine, the intergalactic game, probably going to see something about Soros, this other game that's coming out in a couple months. You know, we might see something about that. But I think something like Bloodborne, if that were to get announced, something for it is going to be saved for a much bigger event, whether it's a different, a bigger showcase, when the Game Awards, Summer Games Fest, something like that, I think is much more likely than at these, these showcases. So anyway, temper your expectations. You won't be disappointed as often. And usually these events, like I said, you usually get like one, maybe two, like, oh, that was really cool. And the rest is like third party stuff. A lot of it we already knew about anyway. And a lot of it's just like, that's there. That's my thoughts. This comes up again, so many months, and made posts on my TikTok about this the last time. And well, we're here again. So I'm also here again to say, hey, temper your expectations. I don't expect anything from Bloodborne, but if it happens, I'll be there. I will be there. My pre-order, whatever, day one, I'm there. But thanks, guys, for watching. Go follow the TikTok, subscribe to me here, like the video. I really appreciate it. The channel's slowly growing here. I've been posting the past couple of days, and I'm excited to see where this kind of content goes. I'm really enjoying putting this stuff out there. So thanks again. I'll catch you guys next time.